Hello friends, today I will talk about language and the brain. Neurolinguistics. Neurolinguistics is the study of how language is represented in the brain. That is, how and where our brains store our knowledge of the language or languages that we speak, understand, read, and write. What happens in our brains as we acquire that knowledge, and what happens as we use it in our everyday lives. Language areas in the brain. Several areas of the brain have been identified with linguistic skills, such as producing and understanding speech. The most important parts are in areas around the left ear. Language areas in the brain. Broca's area. The area that are responsible for language production. Wernicke's area. The area that are responsible for language processing. The motor cortex is an area that generally controls movement of the muscles. The arcuate fasciculus is a bundle of nerve fibers. For example, connection between Wernicke's and Broca's areas. Localization view means specific aspects of language ability can be accorded specific locations in the brain. First one, the word is heard and comprehended via Wernicke's area. Second, the signal is then transferred via the arcuate fasciculus to Broca's area, where preparations are made to produce it. Third, a signal is sent to the motor cortex to physically articulate the word. Tongue tips and slips. The tip of the tongue phenomenon. It is the failure to retrieve a word from memory. For example, we know the word, but it just won't come to the surface. Slips of the tongue. Speech errors. For example, use the door to open the key. Slips of the ear. One other type of slip may provide some clues to how the brain tries to make sense of the auditory signal it receives. For example, I am looking for a great ape. Why should someone be looking for a great ape in this office? I mean great ape. Aphasia. Aphasia is defined as an impairment of language function due to localized brain damage that leads to difficulty in understanding and producing linguistic forms. Someone who is aphasic often has interrelated language disorders. Most people who have aphasia are middle-aged or older, but anyone can acquire it, including children. Broca's aphasia. Broca's aphasia is a serious language disorder. It is characterized by a substantially reduced amount of speech, disordered articulation, slow, often effortful speech. For example, I eggs and eat, drink coffee, breakfast. Wernicke's aphasia. Difficulties in auditory comprehension. Production of a very fluent speech, which is however often difficult to make sense of. Example, I can't talk all of the things I do, and part of the part I can go alright, but I can tell from the other people. To overcome their word-finding difficulties, speakers use different strategies such as trying to describe objects or talking about their purpose. Example, the thing to put cigarettes in, for ashtray. Conduction aphasia. An acute language disorder, it is characterized by intact auditory comprehension, coherent speech production, but poor speech repetition. Affected people are fully capable of understanding what they are hearing, but fail to encode phonological information for production. Symptoms. Sometimes mispronounce words, but typically do not have articulation problems. They are fluent, but may have disrupted rhythm because of pauses and hesitations. Comprehension of spoken words is normally good. However, the task of repeating a word or phrase creates major difficulty. Dyadic listening. Dyadic listening is one of the most common techniques used to determine the hemispheric lateralization of language, using pairs of stimuli that are presented simultaneously, one in each ear to induce auditory competition between the two ears. Left brain and right brain. The essential distinction seems to be between analytic processing, such as recognizing the smaller details of sounds, words, and phrase structures in rapid sequence, done with the left brain. Holistic processing, such as identifying more general structures in language and experience, done with the right brain. Left brain versus right brain. Left brain has analyzes, logic, facts, sequencing, mathematics, and language. Right brain has creativity, intuition, feelings, imagination, daydreaming, and arts. The critical period, lateralization. The lateralization process begins in early childhood. It coincides with the period during which language acquisition takes place. The critical period. The general view is that the critical period for the first language acquisition lasts from birth until puberty. If a child doesn't acquire language during this period, then he or she will find it almost impossible to learn language later on. There are my references. Thank you for watching and listening.